Good morning, crafty friends. Happy Saturday. I am Beth Roy, an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and welcome to my craft room. So good morning, good morning. If you're new to my page, please say hello and let us know where you're watching from so we can get to know you. Just going to see if I can find my video here. Good morning, Vicki. I'm just waiting on my computer to get up to speed here. And hopefully my notifications go out. Good morning, Jenny. It's a little chilly here in Ohio, and we'll see if my internet cooperates. It may or may not. So good morning. Today I want to show you this faux tile technique, and I have seen a faux tile technique in the past, and I loved the look of it, but I wasn't a big fan because it required cutting into little tiny squares and then trying to line the back up and glue them straight, and that was just too much for me. So recently I watched a video by Patty Bennett, another demonstrator, and she showed the technique the way I'm going to show you today, and it just made it so much easier and quicker, and I think this is something everybody can do. So I'm going to show you, you can see some of my samples, and I'm going to tell you how I did them, and then you can play with it and make it your own. So let's see. Okay, there I am. So I'm curious, have you heard about this technique? Have you tried it before? Like I said, I'm not sure if I've ever done it the way that Patty Bennett did it. But I definitely have done it where you cut all these little squares, and to me it was just too tedious. I loved the look, but a little too much time consuming for me. Oh, good, Vicki. I'm glad. I know sometimes people say they have a hard time finding me. I mean, the video goes right on my page, so I'm not sure why. But you never know in Facebook land what's going on or why. I can never answer that question. So hopefully everybody finds me this morning. Oh, so this is brand new for you, Jenny. So like I said, I have seen it before. And if you search for it, most of the time you're going to see the technique where you stamp a sheet and then you're cutting it every 1 inch, and then you're trying to keep everything lined up like a puzzle. So this way is easier, and you guys are going to love it. It's just so simple. Now, probably the difference between this way and the old way that I know, where you actually chop up your paper, is you need a more solid stamp. So you're not going to want something that you color. You want more of the solid stamps, and I'm going to show you why that is with this technique. Now, the old technique, you know, stamping it, coloring it, doing all the things, and then cutting it apart and then leaving little spaces like it's tile, would work if you wanted to do, like I said, all the coloring and that kind of thing, but too time consuming for me. So I'm going to take the easy route. Good morning, Jan. Thanks for joining us. So it's faux tile because it looks like tiles. So this was the first one I did, and of course I used one of my favorite color schemes. This is Mint Macaron, Bermuda Bay, and Pool Party, and I thought this stamp set worked wonderful with this. So I was trying to think about how I wanted to use this in different ways. So I made several samples, and then I also made a slimline sample. So if you're into these sizes, this is how I did it. So I used, you want to use a piece of cardstock, and I'm using white. You could use other colors if you wanted it to look like a colored tile. But I used the basic white. So you want it to be even because you're scoring it. So I'm using the Simply scoreboard. You can also use your trimmer. It's just the trimmer scores a little bit differently than your stylus. So that's something to think about. You can still use your trimmer. I'm going to show you some ideas when I bring those products up here and how you can do it. But you're basically scoring your basic white paper to create these lines, and then you're stamping. That's why you don't want something that you have to color unless you're going to avoid the debossed lines. So, and I want to show you on this one, you can't see my line because my ink pad was so juicy, it actually stamped down into my line on some parts. So I wanted to try a couple different things. So here's the sizes I used. I used a 4x4 because you can easily score that at 1 inch or 1/2 inch. So this one's at 1 inch, this one's at 1/2 inch. So it depends on how big you want your tiles or how you want them to look. So you can use 4x4. I also used 4x5, right? Because we can divide that evenly on each side by 1. And then I also used slimline. Now this size is perfect because you do 3x6. So I want to show you, we can do any of these sizes today. You guys can pick what we're making. Obviously, we want to see this process, so I want you involved in that. But I want to show you on this one, I did them even. I did it 1 inch both directions and scored it. And I made a guy card, or like I said, girls that love mountains, this card would be great for me. I love scenery like this. But if you're looking to do masculine cards, this would be a great one too. And I used Mountain Air, and I did 1 by 1. So this one, I did something a little different. I did 2 inches by 1 inch. So I did a little different so that I look like it looks like those long tiles. You know, you can buy tiles that are long in a rectangle instead of a square. So change up your measurements and have a little bit of fun with it. So what do you think? Good morning, Dad. Thanks for joining us. What do you think? What do you think about this technique? I'm going to show you all the steps. Are you guys ready? I do too. As soon as I saw Patty's video, and she had lots of samples, I thought about changing it up by not making them the same on both sides. So I really like this. Now, this one doesn't show up as well because it has a lot of white space, but your recipient is definitely going to be able to tell. My only complaint was my ink pad was a little juicy, so my ink got down in there where I didn't want it. That's okay. You can make it any way you want. I think this is my favorite. So, do you guys want to do flowers today? Do you want to try this set? And you can use any solid stamps that you have. So, it doesn't have to be flowers. It can be anything that you have that's a solid stamp. And it just looks like a tile. I think it's a really neat look. So, do you guys want to try the flowers? What do we want to stamp today? And you could even do the flowers on the slimline, whatever you want. Get creative. Get those juices flowing. So what we're going to use today is I'm going to use my Simply Scored because I find it to be the easiest and the quickest for me. And I use this a ton when I'm scoring lots of card bases, or, you know, you can use this for fancy folds. So I have this on hand. I use it quite a bit. If you don't have this and you don't use it, or you don't use it, you don't feel comfortable with it, that's fine. It comes with a stylus so that you can easily make your score lines. So that's what I'm going to be using. But you can also, put this to the side for a second. Our trimmer does have a scoring blade. So this is our cutting blade. This is our scoring blade. The difference is it's not going to have that real rounded look like this, because this just scores it differently. But you can certainly put your paper at 5, slide it down to 4, score, slide it to 3, score, etc. So you certainly could do that. So you could put your paper in here and then slide it down if you want it to be 1 inch and score. So let me show you that just so you can see it. So you're going to score at 1, and I like to do it lots of times, and then you would move it to 2 and score it, and then move it to 1. So if you have just the trimmer, you can certainly do this. I would put pressure on there and make sure you have a nice deep debossed line. Oh yes, you could make a kitchen look, Vicki, and you can also score it at 1 inch and stamp little tiny flowers or something so that it's just looks like an individual tile. Now, I didn't do any samples like that. Patty had one on her video. So I'm going to start here at 3, and I'm going to score the opposite direction so that I end up with little 1 inch squares. So you certainly could do a little tiny stamp and do it individually and make it really look like a tiled wall, if you will. Or you can just, you know, have fun and make it whatever. So hopefully you guys can see that. So you get little 1 inch squares. So now you're going to stamp on top of it, and you don't want to press too hard because you do not want to get the ink in there. But you can see this score line, because it's really meant for probably more like folding, is not as rounded and wide as this score line. So hopefully you can see that. See the difference? So this one's going to look a lot tighter than these. And that's okay. If that's all you have, that's fine. Now, if you have your, take your pick tool, okay? Somewhere I have my little bag of goodies. That goes with my, take your pick tool somewhere. I wonder where I've put them. Let's see. There they are. Sorry. So I keep all my little extra bits because I leave my piercing tool in there a lot. So our Take Your Pick tool has 2 tools on each side. And then it also it comes with a stylus. So I have several Take Your Pick tools. So I just keep all my little extra bits in here. So you do get a stylus with this. Leave that on there. And it has a small one and it has a large end. So you can put that into your Take Your Pick tool and place your paper on here. So let me do one of these just so you can see it. And then I'm going to use the Simply Scored, and I'll show you another one. So you can push all your blades out of the way, and you can put this into your trimmer, and then you're going to run this along that track where your blade would go. Now you don't want to press so hard that you rip your paper. So you can see it still works. I probably needed to press a little bit harder, but you can use either end. So the bigger end might work better in this case. Oh, well, it fits. You've got to kind of slide it in there, but you can do that. And then use that track to score it. So it's not as deep, it's not as down in as I would like, but I'm probably not using enough force. So I'm just going to score it several times and do it on this side. A little bit easier for me. So I'm using the 1 inch over here to do that last bit. And then 1 inch this way. inch this way. So these two pieces I've scored at 1 inch on each side. So that's how you can use your trimmer and the other tools that you have if you do not have the Simply Scored. So everybody should have the tools to try this technique if you are making cards at home, because you have a trimmer. If you have a Stampin' Up! Trimmer, it definitely has a score blade. So I've scored these two. Now let me show you how I did the slimline. Now this is a mini slimline, so my layer is cut to 6 inches by 3. You can also do a regular slimline card at 8 inches by 3. They both can break down by 2 or 1, or you could do a 1/2 inch if you like the really close tiles like I did on this one. So, what do you guys think? What do you want to try? I'm going to bring this in. So really, you could score a whole bunch of layers and then just stamp away and have a stack of cards. This technique is so simple and it's so quick, and you can use whatever stamps you have. So retired stamps, your favorite stamps, whatever. If you just bought new stamps and you want to test them out and they're solid, you can stamp an outline. And so some of the two-step stamps have an outline and then it has a filler. You can use those. But if you do just outline stamps, they may not, the tile effect may not show up as well. So what do you want to try? While you're deciding, I'm going to score this one, and I'm going to show you the 1 by 2 look. I really liked that. I really liked this effect of how it wasn't even, it was more of a rectangle. And it worked really well with the mountain. Now this works well too. I like both. Or do you want to see this one? Maybe you want to stamp this one. I can always cut more paper. I got plenty of that. So, to do the 1 by 2, I did the 3-inch side at the 1 inch so I could have 2 lines. And I'm going to use, the stylus that comes with your Simply Scored has a small end and a big end. Typically, you use the small end on cardstock and the big end on your designer series paper because this doesn't go down as far. So it depends on how heavy-handed you are. I prefer to use the small end on my cardstock, and I like it to be really deep. So you're going to see the difference when we do it on here, and I'm just doing it at 1 inch and 2 inches. Oops. So see how deep that is compared to what we did on the trimmer? It's not wrong. It's just if you do it on the trimmer, make sure you go back and forth a few times to get that deepness, because that's how the effect happens. Now, oops. So now I'm going to turn it to my 6-inch side, and I'm going to do it every 2 inches. I just like the effect of this. So I'm scoring at 2 and at 4. And I like this because I'm not moving my paper. I just have to find my measurement and score it. So we have a slim line like that. Jenny votes flowers. So I do have, this is the stamp set that I used on these 2 cards, and I really think it does a great job because they're big, and so you can really see that white line in there. So we've got 3 sizes here, and you can stamp all 3 at the same time. And then you've got 3 card fronts ready to go. You know, Jenny's famous for busting out card fronts in no time, so. This is a great way to do that. And you can use embellishments on your card. You can put pearls or gems or ribbon or whatever you want to dress it up. So I like this effect. I think it's so simple and it just adds so much that I felt fine with just adding a greeting. If you want to step this up and layer it up, you can certainly do that. You can add in all kinds of things. So have some fun with it. We're going to keep it simple today. We're going to keep it simple. Even if you're a beginner, you can make these types of cards. So we're going to keep it simple, but feel free to have as much fun as you want. All right. Jenny's laughing at me. Well, Jenny, I can't help it. It's true. It's true. Oh, and I wanted to show you this. On the Simply scoreboard, it comes with 3 markers where you can place them at the 1 inch, the 2 inch, the 3 inch. When I bought my Simply Score, they didn't have these extras for sale anymore, but this comes with your scoreboard. There's a little door that opens on the top that has these in there. You can place those if you feel like you need the markers there to help you score quickly. Yes, High Tide Wood. I love that set. Love it. Anyone else want to throw their hat in the ring? We can certainly do, we may be able to do a couple of cards. So. Now, of course, I have my favorite color scheme, but we can change it if y'all want. I just feel like it's been really, really dreary, and these colors make me feel good. Jan votes flowers, so let's try the flowers. I will probably do lots more samples, Vicki, so I am going to try that High Tide. So this stamp set is cling, so we do not need the pierce mat or anything to stamp on. I am going to bring in a grungy piece of grid paper that I've been stamping all over on, and let's have some fun. So do you guys want to use the same color scheme, or would you like to change it up? You know, I'm all for helping you explore. Now, when you stamp, you want to make sure, this doesn't feel like it's scored enough. Let me make that a little bit deeper. When you, oh gosh, I totally lost my train of thought. When you stamp on this, you want to make sure you stamp on the debossed side so that this is the embossed side, it's raised up. You want the debossed so that these white lines don't get ink in there. I'm gonna just kind of score this again right here. It just didn't seem deep enough. Maybe that one too. So you just want to make sure you don't rip through your cardstock. Do this direction again just to make sure that I'm going to make sure those lines really show up. Okay, so, oh, French countryside could make a nice pattern. True, true. Those are all wonderful, wonderful ideas. You are correct. Okay, and I'm going to do these again. I'm just going over these. I want to make sure they're really deep so that they show up when no ink gets in there. Okay, so would you like to do the same? I think that's good. Would you like to do the same colors? Or do you guys want to change it up? So the colors for this one that I used were Pool Party, Bermuda Bay, and Mint Macaron. Or do you want to change it up? We can change whatever colors. We can switch out colors. We can do 3 new colors. Whatever you think. Jenny votes same colors. Yes, Vicki, maybe. I'm trying to think if I have enough, if I have small enough stamps that would fit in there. Something like this might, but you definitely have to look for small stamps if you want them to be individual tiles. So I'm doing it like this was a tile collage that the pieces went a certain way and made a picture, but you certainly could stamp individual. You just have to make sure you have small enough little bits to fit in there. Now, just in case you don't have artistically inked, you can also use Art Gallery. These are very solid images, so you could use that as well. Just an idea. I'm trying to think if I have any small stamps while we're chatting here. So Jan votes same colors. All right, let's do it. Let's get stamping. So I did use this to kind of add to the background. I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see that little detail in there? Where's my little pointer tool here? I just had it. There it is. So hopefully you can see right here, there's little background detail that I've done. And I'm going to show you that. Now you could just leave it white. You don't have to do any texture back there. That was just what I thought of. So do you guys want the texture, or do you want me to leave it off so you can see the difference? Texture or no? So just say yes or no. And I'm going to put my stamps on blocks. So I've used this big flower. I love this big flower. I know, I do. I love texture. There's no getting around that. Okay, so everybody says, yes, use it. I just love this stamp. I try to find all kinds of reasons to use it. And let's see if this will fit. So I'm just mounting everything up onto my block so it's ready to go. Now you could add in, I made mine pretty busy. You don't have to do that. If you only like this flower, leave that flower off, or maybe you want this flower, and I use this in the middle instead of the dots, so it would be a little more filled in. If you don't like that, change it up. You don't have to do everything like me, or if you love this, copy away. You can make yours exactly like mine, and that's okay. So I'm just gonna lay my stamps up here, and let me move these just a little bit so I'm not getting ink everywhere. Okay, so I used Pool Party on the background, and this one's pretty yucky. I don't want to pull up any of them. Let me see what else I got laying here. Let's use this one. I will warn you, if you have this grid paper, these lines can pull up. I don't know why these are, I don't know if they're printed different. I've never had that happen. But sometimes when you stamp off, you can pull up this color or other colors. So I am going to use this one to stamp off. So I've got 3 things here. We're going to stamp all of them. We're going to make 3 cards. And you're going to see how easy this is and how beautiful it just turns out. So I'm inking this up in Pool Party, but I don't want it to be full force because I'm using this flower with Pool Party as well. So I'm stamping off, and then I'm gonna stamp on there. And you can turn it, you can, every which way, you can stamp and then stamp and then stamp as much as you want. So you don't want to press so hard that you're going to go down into the lines. Okay. So I'm not, I'm just pressing down and lifting up. And then I've covered that. So hopefully you guys can see that. So see how none of the ink went down into the lines? So if your ink pad's really juicy, you might want to test it. It may get down in there. It's not the end of the world if it does, but you want to try to avoid that if you can. So here's, these two are the ones I scored on my trimmer. So I'm just going to continue on. Like I said, it doesn't have to be perfect. It can be whatever, because we're going to stamp those flowers on top. So there's another one. And let's do this one. We're batching today and making 3 cards. And really, we're going to have a set because I already have 2. So that's 5 cards that I could add envelopes with and gift to somebody. Or if you're trying to build a business, you could sell your cards, the card sets. Oh yes, true, Vicky. Vicky's thinking away. Thinking away on that. Yeah, anything with small images would work. So we will see what we get to. Okay, so I'm going to close this for a minute because I want to do my big flower first. Where's my, so I'm going to put this away, clean my stamp and put it away. Now we're going to come back here and we're going to stamp this big flower in Bermuda Bay. So nice bold color. If you hear my children clotting on the floor, I apologize. They're playing hide and seek. Or laser tag or something. But they're right above me and I can hear them running through the house. So, okay, so now I'm just going to randomly stamp. And I don't want to press too hard because I want those white lines to show up. Isn't that awesome? I love it. So you could stamp off, but I will warn you. I'm going to show you. Let me grab a extra piece of cardstock. So this is a technique within a technique, if you will. So if I take this flower and I stamp it right here, and so none of it was hanging off my paper, look at my stamp. So when you're doing this, you don't necessarily want to stamp off unless you're really layering things, because this is actually a technique called kissing, where you create a design on your stamp with something else. It could be a stamp, or in this case, my scored lines created a design. So let me show you what that looks like so you don't have dark lines through your flower. So if you stamp off, this will show. And actually, when I do this on this piece, it's actually going to be a lot tighter. So that's a really cool thing to do, but you might not want that on this card. So there's a little warning if you're stamping off. I think it's kind of neat, but. So let's see, let's go ahead and stamp these. And so I just make sure that I re-ink before I stamp again. There's one, and let's do the third one. So what do you guys think so far about this technique? Like I said, you can make it as busy as you want. Or you can just make it really simple because we put that textured background on there. All the tiles show up. Now, if you leave it just white like I did on my tropical card, then it might not show up as well, like if you're taking a picture or something. But the recipient's definitely going to be able to see the pattern. I'm just slowly moving stuff out of my way. So I'm going to use this little flower. So what I was saying, if you missed that part, you could stamp individual like they were individual tiles, like that. And that is neat too. I kind of like the effect of the white lines showing. Oh, I'm so glad, Jan and Vicki and Kathy. I can't wait to see what you guys create and which stamps you use. I love this. So now I'm going to use that middle and I'm just going to stamp it. Like I said, if you don't like that middle, you can use the dots, but I wanted something that really kind of filled in so I could still see those lines. So see on that one, because the middle went through a line, by using this one, you can kind of see it a little bit better. But again, change it up, make it your own. That's not going to hurt my feelings. I just hope you give it a try. So there's those. I'm just going to throw that on my case. Okay, now. Oh, thank you, Rose. I love this. Like I said, I just discovered, this is Patty Bennett's version of this technique. I don't know if she came up with it, but I definitely saw a video on her teaching it. And the way they used to do it was you stamped a sheet and then you would cut these individual, like this, where the score lines are, those would be cuts. And then you would line it up onto your cardstock and you would glue it back in the order that you cut it. And that was just too much for me. It was too much. So I like this way better, and I wanted to share it with you because it's so cool. It makes just a wow card with a little bit of work. So it's not too hard for anybody. Anybody can do this. And really, I was racking my brain with all kinds of different stamp sets I could use. I mean, there's just so many. I have lots of birds, like I have some retired bird sets that are solid. So you could really, like I said, the solid stamps work the best because you don't want to be coloring it in because then you could lose that white line. So now I'm using Pool Party, and I'm going to come in with this bigger rose flower. And I'm just going to add it in wherever I want, however many I want. So if you wanted your, now I did 1 inch on all of, well, except for this one. I did 1 inch on these other 2 pieces. You could do the 1/2 inch and you're going to get a lot more white lines, which is kind of a cool effect too. So there's my other rose. Now I'm going to do the leaves with mint macaron. So see how quickly 3 cards are coming together? I could have had a bunch of these already scored and just really made a pile of cards. So I have the 2 leaves here, and I think I'm going to do the big one first. And this is mint macaron, if I didn't say that. I think I did, but I'm kind of hanging it off the edge of my ink pad because I don't really want that stem. So just layer it in there however you like. And like I said, you can make it really busy. You can have less, space it out and have less. Again, if you want this stamped off, maybe you want a variation. One way to do that is like I did for the background. You can take your leaves and stamp off and then stamp onto your project. Because otherwise you're going to have that tile line. So I'll fill in some smaller leaves here in a minute. So just do as many as you like. Like I said, if you want a stamped off one, stamp it off on your paper and then stamp it onto your tile sheet. Okay, we're down to one leaf. Oh my goodness. Is this like the fastest you've ever seen me make a card? I know we're not quite done yet, but sometimes the layers are really everything. Now on this one didn't cross a line, so I can use my stamped off. Just make sure you don't have any extra lines there. I'm not going to answer that question, Jenny. Do I sound like I've had a lot of caffeine? I think you're just hearing my kids. I know I don't make cards quickly. Jenny's very, very familiar with this. I promise. I've only had 2 cups of coffee. My normal. She probably hears my mind ticking away here. Okay, I think I've made that really, let's see. I feel like I want a leaf here. Let's just do it. Okay. Are you proud of me, Jenny? I did this. I didn't have a whole pot of coffee. It's the technique. It really is. It's not me. I would have taken... Oh, now if we'd done it the old way, we would have taken hours. We would have taken hours. That's true. Okay, so there we have 3 layers. Can you guys see it on the white? Thanks, Jenny. I think this technique is so great. It makes it a wow card in no time. So Bob would be proud, but we haven't finished yet, have we? We need to put this onto card bases. So I have a Bermuda Baleen here. Now on these 2, I used the mint macaron and I stamped in mint macaron. So these 2 greetings are in the stamp set. So the thanks, you could use hello, best wishes. This would be great for a summer themed wedding. These are probably pretty popular colors. So then you just put it onto your card base. So we can use any colors that we've used, or you could use a gray. You know, gray's my favorite. And I have a bunch of these. I meant to show you this stamped off and I totally forgot. I'm sorry about that. But you get the idea, right? This is 5 inches by 3 3/4 inches. I have a stack of these that I use for the inside of my card. You could stamp these that aren't scored with your stamps while you're stamping your layers, and then your insides are done as well. And you could even stamp the envelope and make it all prettied up for your recipient. So let's see. Do we want, when I make card sets, I try to vary the base color. So this is what it looks like on this. You could put it on white, but I would put a layer behind this to kind of set it off from the white. You could use Pool Party, or you can use gray. So what do you guys think? What are your thoughts this morning? Vicki, that's impossible. I'm always, I just hate when I forget things. But that's okay, you know, that's life. Well, it'll be all right. You get the idea. So if you wanted to do double duty there, you could stamp, and then stamp off onto another piece that's not been scored, and kind of make, you know, extra cards that way, if you like that style. I think it's kind of neat. That technique's really neat, and that might be something that I show you guys too, because I'm trying to think of techniques that I want to share with you that will inspire you to do some new things. Okay, I'm just pulling out some paper here so we can get an idea of what we might want to do. So Vicki likes the Blackberry Bliss. Let me bring in my trimmer. Oh, and we also need to think of this. This one's going to get cut different. So bring in my trimmer here and cut some bases. So let me cut regular bases, and then you guys can decide a color you want to try for the slimline. So what I do when I do my regular card bases, I like to score it 4 1/4. It's just my preference. You can also score going the other way, and your card will open a little bit differently. So I score it 4 1/4, then I turn it and cut it at 5 1/2. And that's the beauty of our trimmer, is you've got 2 blades, you've got your scoring and your cutting blade, and so you can do quick cards. So you can also score it at, let me show you the other way, 5 1/2. So you're going to score, and I like to go back and forth a couple times. I like a deep score line, and then you cut it at 4 1/2. So that's the 2 different sizes. Now that's here in the US. I'm not sure the paper sizes for overseas. That's how we make the card bases, 2 different ways. And let's do this one. Any thoughts? Anybody on that wants to share? Don't be afraid. We're not hard on anyone that wants to throw out their ideas, I promise. So if you're new, don't be afraid. We want to know you. We want to get to know you. And I enjoy hearing your choices. So there's those. And then there's the Bermuda Bay. So you can tell me which one you think you want this slimline to be. So that's that. That's how different that would look. And sometimes it does change because of the size of your layer. So here's Pool Party. That's a nice soft look. All right. And we can do 2 different ones. So that's what Pool Party looks like. This is Basic Gray. And see, one of the reasons why I love Basic Gray is it just pops. It pops those colors off. So that's my go-to color, our base color. And then we have the Mint Macaron. So, what do you think? Jan votes for a pool party. Now remember, we have 2 pieces here. So you can pick 2 colors or we can do them both the same. And then we got to pick a color for this. So I'm just going to, again, this would be, this is a little bit, because we can cut this exactly the size that we actually use for a slimline, it doesn't have quite an uneven border. So Vicki votes Bermuda Bay, Jan votes pool party. So let me start. We could certainly do one of each. You know, I like to have my card bases and all the colors I chose for my color scheme to test them out. I like to try out things before I'm finished. Ooh, like a smoky slate. I think I actually have. No. So I used smoky slate on this card, but it was a mini slimline. So let me see if I have a smoky slate base. I don't know if I have one cut. I do have a smoky slate. So if you don't like dark gray, you could always choose a light gray as well. This is smoky slate. If you have gray granite, that would work too. So I see 2 votes for pool party. So let's do one of these pool party. Now, I made a thank you card and I made a birthday card. So if you don't know how you want to use these, you could just mount them onto your card base and then later on add your greeting. So your greeting can be stamped down here if you have a light card stock, or even if you use Bermuda Bay, you could use basic gray and ink it and stamp it several times and it would show up on there. Or you can do a strip like I did and add it across the front. Best wishes. Yes, you could certainly do best wishes too. Let me see here. Where's my stamp set? Oh, it's right here. So the best wishes, that's what it looks like. It's not a long thing. So you could use a circle. You could use a stitched square. Now, the stylish shapes I noticed the other day when I looked is on back order. But if you have those, you could use the little stitched square. There is a little stitched rectangle too in the stitched rectangle, so you could definitely use that. So if you, I don't know if I have any cut. Sometimes I have stuff already cut out here. Sometimes that I've thought to use and then didn't use. So we certainly could do that. So yes, Vicky's just a note. Yes, you certainly could use just a note. There's lots of sets that have just a note. I love that because I just feel like you can write whatever you want on the inside. It can become a birthday card. It can become a thinking of you. So that is one of my favorites. Or hello. Or hello. This set does have a hello. So we'll do a best wishes. So we have one on pool party. Do you guys want to try maybe a straight? Like we could do a happy birthday or a hello on this. And then we could show what it looks like stamped right onto the cardstock. And then let's pick, let's do the light gray on this one, just so you guys can see how it's finished. And then do you guys want, what color do we want for this? This one, because I've got to cut it differently. Got to cut that one differently. So let me put some of these away that are on my outside here. I'll grab out the greetings. So I have best wishes. Oh, I love this happy birthday. I just think it's a great font. I know it's all capitals, but it works for everybody. It's I love this happy birthday. I love how it stamps. Just love it. So Bermuda Bay for this big one. And we'll do best wishes on this. That's pretty. And happy birthday on this one. And Vicki votes Bermuda Bay. Anybody else have a vote? Because I have to grab a new sheet of paper here. Just fine. I've got plenty of that paper. I've really been into the mini slimline cards lately. I just, I don't know. They've just been a lot of fun to make. So to make my mini slimline base, I do 6.5 is my final folded size by 3.5. So we got to cut a piece of paper. Let me get my thing in here. We're going to cut to 7. Oops. And if you like to layer your slim lines, I cut my 11-inch side at 7 so that I have this 4-inch piece that I can make a layer with for my slim lines. So that's a good size. And then I turn, I think I cut that right. Yeah, the 8.5 side I cut at 6.5. Okay, so there's my thing. And I just save that little piece. That's great for if you're doing die cuts or something. Now the 7-inch side, move your cutting blade. We're going to score that at 3.5. So that's my preferred size that I like to use. You can, of course, make any variation. The definition of the slim line is just that it's a slim, long, rectangular card. So make sure you score it so that it's easier to fold. Jan votes Bermuda Bay too. So then there's that. Now, like I said, you could, this has enough room to have a layer. So if you wanted a layer in there, let me just show you. I have a bunch of, somewhere, I have a bunch of extra pieces because, well, I've been doing a lot of slim lines. So this is an extra piece where I had a lot of basic gray bases. I can trim this down to make a layer if I wanted a layer in there. So this size is 6 by 3. Your layer would be 6.25 by 3.25, and then your base is 6.5 by 3.5. So you can add a layer in there if you don't like how wide this is. You can add another layer. You could even add white if you wanted a white layer all the way around it. So what do we want this? Do we want it to say thanks? Do we want it to say hello? And really, if you have, like how I did a wider, you could stamp right on top of this with a dark color, and it's going to show up over those flowers if you don't want to add a layer, if you want to keep it simple. But I have lots of these strips from cutting my paper down. So I'm trying to use up these strips. Now, this one, we can use a strip, or we could cut a detailed. So this fits right onto one of my scraps. I can just use a little square, or if you wanted to change it up, you could make a circle. You could use a stitched circle. And I don't know if I have any already cut, but sometimes I do. I throw extra die cuts in the back of my case. It looks like I used all the circles. So, now look, I have this piece cut, and this happens to be a mint macaron. So if you were doing a mint macaron base and you wanted it to match, you could use one of these to create some layered details. So, you know, you can change it up. Like I said, you can make it as layered and as detailed as you want, just like a regular card. So Vicki votes hello. And like I said, because I made this a little bit wider, I don't need a layer. I could stamp that little word, and I could use my Stamparatus and stamp it in Bermuda Bay or even basic gray. I like to do a neutral. Depends on how much you want your word to pop off and show with your design. So let's see, we're going to stamp this one right on, and guess what? I don't know if I can stamp it straight. I'm going to bring in my Stamparatus because that just makes me feel more comfortable. And I don't need this foam pad. Oh, look at me. So let's see. Oops. I gotta move a few things out of the way, don't I? If you ever craft with me, this is exactly what I do and what it looks like. I'm gonna throw this scrap piece I had in there. Now, when I'm stamping, so I would actually adhere this on whichever way I want it to go, because it can go anywhere. This is square, so just pick the direction you like. I would adhere that on, and you can leave space, less space at the top if you want to stamp down here, or if you want it at the top. I like to off-center it, but this is going to be right in the corner, which means that it's going to be a little harder to stamp because of this hinge. So I like to turn this. And I'm actually going to stamp opposite because I'm not left-handed, but that's okay. That's the beauty of this. It can go any direction that you want. Put my plate in there. Let's move some of this stuff out of the way. So my plate will go down. There we go. So I'm going to turn it so that when I stamp, it's out here away from this corner. Now let's see. I'm going to adhere this. You can do it in the middle. You can adjust that. Yes, Vicki, if you wanted to do mint macaron layer on the slim line, then the banner, and really it's okay if the banner doesn't match. You can use lots of different colors. It's just whatever style you prefer. So you definitely can layer it up. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this on just so that I can make sure I stamp where I want it to go. And I'm using liquid glue. You can use whatever adhesive you like. I think I'm going to put it this direction. And I'm just trying to get it even on these two sides. I'm not trying to get it even up and on the top and bottom because it's a square. It's not going to necessarily be or look even. And then I'm going to stamp this right here. So my goal is I didn't have a lot of space down here, and I have a little space down here, and down here's my happy birthday. You can use the magnet if you want. I'm going to pick this up. I'm not sure if it's straight, so I'm going to move my card out. Oops, I got a mess everywhere. Now, what color do we want to stamp in? My original cards, because I stamped on white and then cut around them and put them on, I used mint macaron. Now, I was thinking when I did this placement that I would use Bermuda Bay. And so that gave me kind of a triangle look with my Bermuda Bay color. That was my thinking. I guess I didn't really say that out loud, why I turned my paper the way I did, but that is why I chose that way. Because I felt like if this was turned and the Bermuda Bay flower was here, then I was stacking those two colors up. And you want to kind of design things so that your eye moves around the page. And the way I've always learned it is using a zigzag kind of method. So you could also use basic gray. Like I said, if you like neutrals, you certainly could use the basic gray. And sometimes I do that, and that is perfectly Okay, so I'm going to ink this up with my Bermuda Bay. And I'm going to stamp this onto my grid paper just to make sure I have it straight. It looks straight. It looks pretty straight to me. So I'm going to go with it. And if you stamped it and it was sideways, you could just stamp a piece of white and add a layer. And no worries, right? So I have this pushed all the way into the corner. And I'm stamping. Now, it didn't stamp really dark. User error probably on my part. So I'm just going to ink it again. And this is one of the reasons why I use the Stamparatus. Number one, I can push my paper, because see my paper moved. I can push it right back where it was. I can re-ink. And I can do it again. And really, if it was because I didn't press hard enough on this side and it doesn't need ink, all I have to do is close it again and press a little bit harder. Oh my goodness. Well, I didn't put my paper back. Who likes the shadow effect? I didn't put my paper back where it went. That's all right. We got a little shadow effect. What do you guys think? I kind of like it. I didn't mean to do that on purpose. I didn't make sure my paper was where it was supposed to be. That's what happens. Now you guys see how that mistake turns out. And because I had stamped off already, we got a little shadow. I think I'm just going to go with it. If you don't like it, you think, oh my gosh, Beth, that just ruined your card. That's okay. You're allowed to think that. You can stamp a piece of white and make the banner. Yeah, I ended up with a shadow. That's what happens when your paper's not lined up. Sometimes it's a happy accident. Sometimes I use a banner and I cover it up. I'm glad I could make these mistakes for you though, so that you can see this is what happens and you don't want your stamp stuck to the inside of your card. Now, I'm going to use my bone folder and just make sure my crease is good here. I typically do that before I put it into my thing. I'm kind of doing things backwards here, but that's okay. So there's our card with a little neat effect if that's what you want to go for. Now you know how to do that. And let me move this out of the way. Sliding around here. I'm going to pull this off. I'll clean them later. I normally use my chamois just to wipe them off really quick. I'm just throwing them over on my Stampin' Scrub. Now we're going to do Best Wishes on this one. And so again, what color do you think we should use? We're going to stamp on this little scrap of white that I have. Oh, I want the little piece. Try to use up little pieces when I have these. Because a lot of times I cut these, like I have, let's use this little strip up. This fits in here. So what do we think? What color? Let's have a little vote. So this is going to get stamped onto here. Again, I don't want to slide this into the corner. Let me pull it up so you can see it. Because you have to press really hard by these. So I'm going to figure out how to stamp it so that it's away from the corner. And because I'm using the plate on this side, this has a little more give up against this. Where if I have it on this side and I'm trying to stamp it, it doesn't have as much give. So if this bothers you, stamping this direction, I'm right-handed and I like to go this direction, you can turn this around so that it's on the right side, and then just stamp on this end of your paper. So either way, whatever is comfortable for you, you just want to stay away from that corner. You can still stamp there, it just takes a little bit more pressure, or you have to put maybe your what am I thinking of here? That, like the silicone mat, that's what I'm thinking of. You can put that under there and it lifts it up a little bit so that it's easier to stamp in the corner. So do we want to keep the color Bermuda Bay, or would you like to use the mint macaron? You can use Pool Party. I typically ink and stamp Pool Party several times because it's a very light ink. So you can use any of those colors on here, whatever color you really want to draw out. And this can be a landscape card or it can be a portrait card. So we did this one as a portrait. We could do this one as a landscape. And again, you're able to do this way or this way. And you could put your, I'm thinking the placement should be somewhere where there's a, one of these Pool Party flowers, but you can overlap it however you like. So what do y'all think? Do you want to stick with the Bermuda Bay? Do you want to try something new? Jan wants to try gray. Now, we can use smoky slate. You don't have to use basic gray. We could use smoky slate ink. So let me move some inks here so that I have a little bit of room. So we do have smoky slate ink. So you can stamp in smoky slate so that it matches. If you feel like you used smoky slate as your base and you want to bring that color in, you can bring it in with your greeting. So let's try it, and then we'll figure out how we want our card. So this, because it's kind of scripty, I'm not really too worried about if it's straight. I'm not going to worry about it. I'm just going to stamp it. And I'm going to make sure my paper is in there. And the beauty of using your Stamparatus, if you don't want the shadow effect, make sure, or use a magnet. So let me pull a magnet off here. There are magnets on the back of your Stamparatus. You can put the magnet right there and hold it. So I just want to make sure I'm pressing down. And so if that's not dark enough, you can ink and stamp again. What do you guys think? So here's our card. Is that dark enough, or do you want to stamp it again? I personally think it looks fine. I think one inking and stamping is fine. So when you ink and stamp smoky slate over and over, it starts to look like basic gray because they're the same undertone. They're the same type of gray. So this is, and I don't know all the proper warm or cool. This is probably what I would call warm gray, or no, cool gray, because it's more of like a blue base. But you have gray granite, that's more of a brown base. So it's a little bit different color. Okay, now we need to do one more. Let me pull this off. And I'm just going to trim this with my scissors. So I'm just going to trim it down. And if you're not comfortable with this, you can use your trimmer. I'm just going to trim it down. I don't think I did that side straight. That's all right. I think I did it crooked. That's okay. If you hate it, stamp it again and cut it again. I'm going to leave it as is. So you can just pop this on like that. I'm going to use some dimensionals. I'm going to lay that to the side because I want to stamp this really quick. Excuse me. So I purposely didn't put any blue flower or the Bermuda Bay flowers down here. I'm going to turn this yet again. You can see this is, I work all different directions. That's perfectly fine. I'm just trying to get this away from my hinge. I think I want to try just stamping this on and seeing what it looks like. Very simple. I know, if you hate it, just cut it wonky. That's true, Vicki. If you hate it, just, or you could trim around it. You could trim around it like I did this thanks. So whatever your style is works. So what do you guys think? I know we could layer this up, and Vicki did suggest that because I do have some things already cut that actually match. And sometimes I do. But we can also stamp this really simple, and we could stamp this hello in the Bermuda Bay, and it's going to show up over all those other things that we stamped. Or even if you use gray. So what are your thoughts on that? Meanwhile, I'm just going to crease this card while you're all thinking about your options here. Just going to crease my cards so they're nice and ready to go. Straight on and Bermuda Bay, Vicki, is Vicki's vote. So like I said, if you're new to crafting and you don't have the die cut machine and you don't have dies and you don't have punches and you don't have all those things, you can still make this card. You can stamp right onto your layer. You can use your strips. And you can do all of this with very simple tools that you don't have to have a lot of things. You just have to use your favorite stamps and your favorite colors. So that one's ready to go. Okay, let's try it. So I am going to hold this into place, and I'm not going to put my magnet here. I don't want it to mess up my lines. Let's see. Let's see how well I did with this one being straight. Now, I don't have this already onto my base. This one I did that way because I wanted to make sure I was stamping right onto the base. So there's lots of ways you can do this and how we can all get to the same ending. So if your style is to do it a different way, feel free to do it that way. There's no wrong way. Okay, I'm going to stamp this. And I can kind of see these do have grid lines. And I can kind of see that I'm pretty sure I got it straight. Oh, maybe not. Not as straight as I thought. Now, I made it straight according to my sticker. Sometimes this is not cut straight. So I'm going to try to, to adjust this a little bit. Let me think here. I don't think I adjusted it enough. See, I'm trying to line that up, and there are little grids here. Let's see if I lined it up enough. Turn my grid paper. I'm going to stamp and ink again. Ink and stamp. I said that backwards. So according to my sticker, it looks straight. Still not quite straight. Let's see here. So I do like to adjust it. I don't like how that looks. Keep on going, Beth. Keep on going. So let me clean this. Don't quite like how it came out. Sometimes our stamps are cut, and it could see how this, it's just a little tiny bit. So it depends on how picky you are. I just cleaned it off. Now I think it needs to come up like that. So let's see if I made the right adjustment. Okay. Ah, looks good. Looks good. So I just had to adjust it by how much I felt like it was off a little bit. So you probably wouldn't have noticed, maybe when the card's finished. So it's really, you probably know it more than your recipient. So there we go. I'm going to stamp it again. I want it to be a little bit darker. If you don't want this to move, put your magnet on there. And sometimes with the darker inks, if you just hold it for a second, you don't want to squish it way down because these thin letters will move out and look kind of fuzzy. But it just takes a little bit more for that ink to get down into your paper. So just hold it there for a second. There we go. Now, I'll clean that later. Throw it off to the side with the rest of my mess. And there we have a very simple mini slimline. So great for beginners. Let's adhere all these things together. And we have 3 finished cards. Now, I didn't do the insides. And if I thought about it when I was stamping, I would have done that. But I've already given you the ideas. So you can take those and start making it your own. If you have the stamp set and these colors, feel free to copy what I did and have some fun with it. It's still going to be a little bit different because the way we stamp our layer is random. And you can make whatever size you like. So again, I used a mini slimline size, and that is 3 inches by 6. And I cut these, like I said, I've been doing these a ton. So I had a bunch of these already cut up. Making some sets of mini slimlines. You can use the regular slimline size of 8 by 3 if you like the longer card. This size was 4 inches by 5 so that it was easily, you know, done into the 1-inch increments. So it's a little off from our typical, or no, I'm sorry, this was 4 by 4. I take that back. This was 4 inches by 4 inches, so it's a little bit shorter. This one was 4 by 5. And I think it's okay. It doesn't bother me that it's not even. If it bothers you, then you will have to come up with the math of how, you know, how far apart you need your score lines so that they come out even. You don't want like a little tiny line right here. Thank you, Vicki and Jan. I'm glad you guys stuck around. We ended up going over it. It is a quick technique, but when we're making choices, you know, that always takes a little more time. So I'm just putting a couple dimensionals on the back of that best wishes and adding it in. So we're just going to, let's just pop this right here. There we go. There is our 3 cards that we made today. Thank you all for joining me. I hope that you enjoyed this technique and will give it a try. If I've left you with any questions about what to do or how to do or ideas, please comment here, ask away, or you can always message me. So there's the 3 we made today. It's also, oh my gosh, a new catalog started. A new catalog started January 5th. And it is celebration. So when you spend $50, you get to pick a level 1. That $50 builds. So at level 2 is $100. There's a couple items in that category, and they compound. So if you order $150, you get host rewards. You get 3 level 1s, or a level 2 and a level 1, or etc. If you need any help with that, let me know. Also, if you're going to spend that much money, you might as well grab our starter kit, because it's $99 plus tax, and you pick $175 worth of product. Also, they have an option 2 this time around. It's $129 plus tax, and you pick $175. Oh, and you also can get the mini cut and emboss machine in the new boho blue, which is going to be an in color coming out with our annual catalog, or the white one that's already in our product line. So the boho blue is an exclusive join item. It will not be for sale. You have to join and get the kit to get it. So here's the other samples I made. These can become birthday cards or thank yous. Here's these two that also match my color scheme. And then here's one I just wanted to try to see what a scene would look like with a tile. And I used Paradise Palms for that one. So thank you all so much for joining me. If you have any questions, let me know. If you need to shop, I'd love to be your demonstrator. You can go to shop.stampandcreatewithbeth.com. That goes right to my Stampin' Up! Online store that Stampin' Up! Provides for us. And if you need anything, I'm just a message or an email away. So everyone have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. I am doing a sale Tuesday night of my retired products that I'm going to let go of. I have such a hard time deciding what to, send out of my craft room, but I want it to have lots of love wherever it goes. So Tuesday night, right here on my page, I'm going to do a live sale event. So if you're interested in that, make sure you come back Tuesday night. Or I'm sorry, that's in my group. I apologize for that. That is not on this page. That is in my private group, Stamp and Create with Beth. They're getting first dibs. So if you're in my group, it is going to be in there. I apologize. I misspoke on that. Sorry about that. Hold on, Jan. I'm trying to see if I can get to my group really quick and tell you what time that is, because for whatever reason, it has left me at this moment. So you can always join the Stamp and Create with Beth. I do have some join questions just so that I can make sure robots aren't joining. I want to tell you the right time. 7 p.m. So Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. You can always watch later. It's going to be a live in my group, so you can always watch later. And if something hasn't sold, you can always comment on that. So just trying to get back so I can make sure I didn't miss any comments. Okay, so if you guys don't, how do I do it? Jan, when we're done with this live, I will pop in the comments, I will pop in the link to my group so that you can join. I'm not sure if you're in there. I think you're in there. But it's just a private group that goes with this page. And a lot of those people are my class, bought classes, or they're my customers, or we interact a little bit more in there. So they get first dibs. So if you're not in that group, make sure you're in there, and I will post the link for you to join. So thank you all. I hope you give this technique a try. I have certainly enjoyed learning it. Again, I learned it from Patty Bennett. She did a video on it, and I used a little bit different things from her, and I made a mini slimline. But the ideas were just coming as soon as I saw the easy way she did the faux tile technique. So no cutting, no trying to line anything up, no extra gluing little bits. So I am going to try Vicky's idea to do the individual tiles, and I'm going to come back and read through some of the ideas about what stamp sets, and I'm probably going to play with this a little bit more. So I hope you all have fun with it. I am going to make a post about it, so feel free to share anything that you make with it over there so we can all give you some love. Everyone have a great weekend, and I'll see you soon. Bye.